She's green and she's gold, and oh my God, she's bold. It's the divine feminine mega dragon, the first divine feminine mega dragon who has risen and taken to our realm. She is in the skies right now, and she shimmers. She's this beautiful light of green and gold that kind of comes from within her and ripples out, but at the same time, she reflects and reflects? Wow. Maybe she does, but I don't know what that means. She refracts and reflects whilst Carrie gets her tongue organized. The light from around her, and damn it, she's just beautiful. And you might feel triggered because her energy is so powerful. We're not used to holding the kind of power that she's bringing into our realm. Let's talk about our realm. We live on a planet called Earth, which is a third dimensional realm that was once part of a fifth dimensional realm called Eden. Eden was always populated by many of the elemental kingdom that we know today just by name. Fairies and elves and sprites. These are the little folk, but also the big folk like the dragons. And among the dragons were mega dragons. The mega dragons are so vast. They're like multiple mountain ranges in size. And there's only a few of them. And they were overseers of Eden, that when Earth became the false matrix, which was the narrowing down of frequency from a once massive, bustling realm, which held light codes for multiple different species. That's part of what made Eden so powerful. She was the jewel of the cosmos and had so many stargates that connected Earth to so many different realms, planets, galaxies. The multitude of different animal species that we have today is still very rare. And that was part of Eden's charm. Eden held not just different animals, but different elementals and different humanoid type beings, from the earth human that we know ourselves to be today, but also shades of green and shades of blue and tall, gigantic humans and mantid-like humans and reptilian-like humanoids and ant-like beings and, indescribably different species. The false matrix was going to be a human experience, and we would have the illusion of imagining that we were the only of our type, of our level of sentience. And we know the drill. This is how we've imagined ourselves to be here on planet Earth. And planet Earth has been surrounded by a veil, but it's a very special veil because it's there and not there simultaneously. Imagine if you fell and you had a scar on your knee and the scar healed and it wasn't there, but you remembered it every day. That's essentially what the veil is right now. It's there because it's our familiar state of being, which is to say segregated and separated from our divinity, from our divine nature, from Eden, from 5D, where we still exist in the higher realms. We just are so focused on the scar on the knee that we reinforce what is no longer being emitted by means of an external frequency. That's why I'm saying the veil is there but not there. It's not there to the mega dragons. But when we undertook to participate in this experiment called the false matrix, when we volunteered to be here, I say volunteered every time with a smile because I know people always go, oh, impossible, Carrie, how could we have volunteered to be here? Well, to an all-knowing being, there's a very appealing element to illusion. To an infinite being, a couple of million years is a drop in a bucket. It's nothing. And at the soul level, we knew that our awakening and our return home to our natural state of being, we knew that that was an inevitability, kind of like playing a game. You play the game for the thrill of evolving your skill and becoming really good at it. And part of the appeal of the false matrix is playing a game, not just for thrill, but for evolution's sake. And we're kind of like a feedback mechanism. We feed back through our expansion and evolution back to God. God is an all-knowing, ever-expanding thing, and we're part of what makes that possible. So, the mega dragons, who were one of many councils that would oversee Eden, when we volunteered to become the false matrix, said, we're not leaving. We're not leaving the human beings, even though they've elected, even though they've chosen, we're not leaving them. And the archons who established the false matrix said, well, guys, you got to go, because it's either that or you become part of the forgetfulness with them. And many of us light workers who are on the surface today, we're here on the surface because we came in the only way that we could, which was to fall in frequency, to meet the populace of the false matrix where they were. We did that because we wanted to be signals and beacons for them to stand shoulder to shoulder with those who'd gotten so lost in the false matrix that they forgot that they were playing a game. And the only way to kind of tap them on the shoulder was to rub shoulders with them. The dragons never wanted to leave us, but at the same time, they didn't want to downgrade their frequency like many light workers have chosen to do, to wake up on the surface. So the only alternative for them was to go below the surface into a deep slumber, into an energetic realm nestled inside of Earth until such time as now. And they're rising now not because they're waking us up. They're rising because we're waking up, and they're answering the signal of our awakening. The first to rise was this luminous ruby red dragon of light, and he brought with him this energy which was potency and power, and he was pissed off with everything that he saw, as if to say, oh my dearest God, how could this happen on the surface? These beings that we love so much have been so manipulated, which was truth. And so the red dragon wasn't showing us truth. He was inviting us to see truth, because that's what his presence did and does still. And he rose up just before the whole Charlie Kirk event, and it brought to the surface just so much that was once lying in the shadow. The next dragon to rise was this pale blue, also masculine energy, pastel, silvery blue, powdery blue. And his energy is, just calm and peace and calm. And as he rose, peace accords were signed at the global level. And I know some of you will be cynical and go, we'll see if those last. But we forget that what we see at the external level is an echo and a ripple of what we're creating on the internal. So we cannot demand peace without being peaceful on the inside. We don't demand an end to war through aggression, but through the peace that we're capable of accessing. And so he was that invitation. Then she came, she being this latest of the mega dragons, green and gold. And she stirs everything up. She's unfreaking predictable. So you might say things like, dear God, I'm so hormonal. You might say things like, dear God, I'm so triggered. And just yesterday, we had an online call, my membership community. We meet once a week, and we were, I can't say all triggered. I was triggered. They were, a lot of people, there was a lot of triggeredness going on as I was telling them about this dragon. So if you want to see me real and raw and behind the scenes and just feeling shitty and telling people, wow, this makes me want to cry and I'm not okay. And somebody said, Kiri, are you okay? And I said, no. But at the same time, it's okay to not be okay. And let me show you what it looks like to lose your shit, but not your balance. And to remain steadfast and centered whilst going through this tumultuous energy that is alchemy in process. You see, she doesn't water anything down, her energy, that is. So it's going to bring the same in for you. It's going to bring the same, if you allow it to, power in. And now we've got a holy trinity, the two masculine and the feminine. I know what's going to happen in the comments. Somebody's going to go, we were waiting for the masculine all along. They were the slow coaches, you know. The divine feminine rose long ago. But did they really? I don't think so. Let me tell you the story from a different perspective. Tap, tap, tap. That's the sound of her foot tapping against the floor in impatience and intolerance as she waits for for men to wake up. This is the story of many women, not all, but many women of planet Earth, tapping an impatient foot on the floor going, when are these men going to wake this stuff up? Because I'm sick of waiting, and when is he going to step up? And whether it was the lover that they were in relationship with or the men of the spiritual community, women were impatient and demanding the rise of masculinity. And I can't really say it's because men weren't ready. I can rather say it's because men stood back, because women had a lesson to learn about female power. And now that we have this red and green dragon, she is the reminder of what we've been prepared for. We, as the female species, had our own fall from grace, and we called it toxic masculinity. I know I've just freaked and triggered a lot of you, freaked a lot of you out and triggered a lot of you, and that's not my intention, and you don't have to agree. So there she was, tapping her foot, demanding men show up, step up. They didn't. They stood back. She stepped forward, and she stepped into the boardroom with aggression and rage, and she said, I will show you how it's done. And when she did that, she disowned her feminine power. The feminine power is to create unity and wholeness. Power, unity, and wholeness. These are her signatures. And what did the women of planet Earth, under the guise of divine feminine rising, do? They declared men to be losers and idiots and slow coaches, so we'll just do it for them. But this was the lesson that men graced women with, that the divine masculine allowed the divine feminine to learn, and it was an opportunity to be humble. I was humbled in this call that I was telling you about. I was so humbled because it all started when somebody was triggered, and I can't even remember what I said to them in response, but something along the lines of, you perceive truth as an attack, but truth is truth. And there's nothing I can say. When you feel that truth is an attack on you, there's nothing I can say. And the rest of the Plasma Light tribe were astoundingly wise. I actually didn't read out the majority of their comments, but in the comment section, they just infused it with this energy of beauty. Nobody was attacking anybody. Everybody was applauding love. And how steadfast love is, and how love is sometimes not fluffy. We think of it that way, and yet Jesus, who is the beacon of love, was the chief table flipper in charge. And that was a display for us of what true love looks like. It's not intolerance and vengeance. It's more like, this is how it is. Bam. And I'm not here to apologize, but I'm also not here to be aggressive. Anyway, the humbling came when that person who had instigated the triggering, who had mistaken truth for an attack, sent an email via my assistant this morning. It was so touching. I literally shed a tear. Just in relief for how brave, for how courageous light workers are, for this woman who had the power and the humility to go, oh wow, thank you. I see myself now. I see what I was projecting. I see what I didn't want to own. Oh, la, la. That's her. There she is. Call number, what was it? 241. If you're in the Plasma Light tribe, you can go watch that. And if you want to join, you're welcome to. You don't have to. See, this is the beautiful thing. The divine feminine is that. It's like, here it is, take it or leave it. I'm not apologizing and I'm not insisting. It just is. That's her energy. And you might feel like you need to flip a couple of tables in your life and then think, Jesus, I'm really losing my rag now. Something's wrong with me. But energetically, you are absorbing a frequency of pure divinity into a body, a physical body that has held such corruption of frequency. So now you've got this medicine coming in and this detox, if you could think of it that way, happening all at the same time. And that's essentially what's happening on our planet, the collapse and the rebirth. It's simultaneous. It's the collapse of a realm and the rebirth of what was always true. These dragons in their holy Trinity, masculine and feminine, they are bringing a wholeness back online for us if we will allow it and not be scared by it and be humble enough to receive it. And by the way, does this mean that I'm always right? No. It means I'm always authentic though, or at least as authentic as I can possibly be. And that's the goal. The goal is not perfection. So many people think that enlightenment is about how good can I always be and how not angry can I always be and how high vibe can I always be, when in reality, the things that we've labeled and judged as toxic, whether it's toxic masculinity, other people's negativity, it's our labeling. It's when we dish out the labels that we become a being of judgment. And it's judgment that lowers our frequency. So this is like a climbing back up the ladder again. As women recover themselves, as a gender, we get to review, okay, I demanded men be what I thought masculinity was supposed to look like. I demanded that of them, accused them of toxic masculinity, all whilst masquerading a toxic femininity that was never named, never alluded to. And that's the best kind of attack. The best kind of attack is the one where somebody calls you a name. It's gaslighting 101. They call you a name that they themselves don't want to own or see within themselves. And boy, these dragons bring it all up. Now, if you're in relationship with narcissists or you are recovering from narcissistic abuse, the healing that is available right now is massive. Will everybody heal? No, because it's an invitational experience. It's an invitational event. You will or you won't. You accept or you deny. But to those who make themselves available to see the truth that was too big to see before, the wholeness. And that's the true feminine. She embraces the masculine, who can now step forward and say, thank you for making space for me to make space for you. That's what the divine masculine does. It doesn't domineer. It allows. Feminine receives. Feminine is energetic mastery. The masculine offers. He doesn't direct, he offers. And here's the mastery of action. Put those two together, and what you have is human power coming back online. And as it does, it's okay if you trip yourself up, and it's okay if you get a little bit discombobulated, and letting go of the illusion that we all clung to and lived by is harrowing. The dragons don't bring chaos. It's very important that you remember that. They don't bring chaos. They certainly bring shift, but it's a restoration of divine harmony, and in so doing, the chaos is discharged. We have access to those light codes now if we will allow them. You will find yourself in dream states, meditation spaces, and energetic alignment that it's so obvious you're being worked with, not worked on, worked with. So as Eden now becomes available to us, because the veil now drops and we get to experience ourselves remembering who we were when we walked on Eden. As this takes place, a wholeness of being takes place at the same time. These dragons, they are not confined to earth only. They shift between earth and Eden, earth and Eden, earth and Eden, because it's showing us to do exactly the same. And in the beginning, we will do that. Ascension is when there is no more earth as we know it. There is only Eden, which is the restored truth of our planetary realm. Until such time, we could think of it as we're practicing for a private ascension or for a personal ascension. We're learning, therefore, to be first in both realms, to crisscross, and eventually to seamlessly crisscross between earth and Eden, 3D and 5D, until eventually we just gravitate to spending more time on the plains of Eden. If you want to do the energetic work, call 242 is it's the energetic work that opens you up to the oceans of Eden, the plains and the passages of Eden, and allows you to sit in the presence of the dragons. And somebody said this, as we were talking about the dragon energy, somebody said this in my members call. They said, it's so overwhelming for me to be in their presence. You may very well feel that. But just the fact that you can feel the overwhelm of their presence, just that is the breakthrough. We're not alone anymore. We're not navigating this ascension unaided. One of the most powerful, most beautiful things that those mega dragons could have done is said, we're not going to leave Earth. We'll go into stasis, because what trust did they have in us then that we would eventually catch on, we would eventually wake up, because they knew that we were it. We were their invitation back. And what a risk they took, because if we didn't wake up, they would have gone down with the false matrix, because they were, in a sense, married into the core of that planetary realm that the false matrix was. All of that is being dismantled. But the courage, I think one day in the future we'll see it, the courage that it took to be here now. Truth is just an acknowledgement. It says, oh, this is how it is. It's not good and bad, wrong and right. It's just how it is. And if we could let go of the idea of blame, oh, we'd be doing ourselves the greatest service, whether it's blame of self or blame of others, or blaming others for blaming others. Blame is part of what kept us in fragmentation and separation. The invitation to wholeness is here. It's been issued. I will meet you in Eden, in the energetic realms where we've always existed. And when we find each other there, it's going to feel finally like home. Home, which is a state of being, not a planet nor a place, but the grace to remember who we are. What a privilege to stand right beside you as we do this together. From my heart, deep into yours. May you feel it. May you say yes. May you allow it in. May you experience the rise of the divine feminine within you, whether you're in a male body, female body. The divine feminine is bringing us all home, as she always said that she would.